Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Saturday. It's time for this week's Loki video, and as you can tell from the title, it's a little bit of a doozy this week. Now, on past occasions, I have alluded to the fact that the deities, especially patron deities, are in the habit of making up their own minds about when it's time for us, mere mortals, to deal with the things that make us uncomfortable. I'm sure many people who've done significant deity work can attest to this fact that not only does it happen, but any reluctance on our part is taken as further evidence that this work is necessary and it's time to get down to business. Now, just to be clear, our gods are not being cruel when they do this. This isn't about toying with us for the hell of it or enjoying our discomfort or anything nasty or mean-spirited about or that. It is about teaching us to move beyond our limitations and to become stronger people. And these lessons often have application beyond the immediate issue at hand. When we go through the process of facing fears or overcoming obstacles that we thought were completely insurmountable, we gain strength and confidence, and the next occasion we have to face something difficult, we can make use of that experience gained. This brings us to the snake issue. I was raised in Missouri, and as a child, I was duly informed that some species of snakes in the area are venomous and others aren't, and that rather than taking a chance to just leave them alone. Now, my first memory of encountering a snake occurred when I was all of 6 years old. I was playing in the backyard. I was by myself having a grand old time. I saw something silver in the grass, and I thought it was a little necklace that I had lost. You know, one of those little chains that for little kids' necklaces. So I walked over and I reached out to pick it up. Just in the nick of time, I realized it was not a chain at all, but it was a coiled snake, and it was a baby rattlesnake to top it all off. I'm actually quite lucky that it didn't strike at me. That would have been very, very bad. I leaped from the yard to the nearby concrete slab, and why I thought that would make me safe, I don't know. Child logic, but anyway, moving on. But I was there, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs, "Snake! Snake!" I was hoping my parents would hear me and come and rescue me. An eternity passed, and no one came. And had reached the point where I had stopped screaming, and I started thinking about what to do. Could I run fast enough to get from the concrete slab across the yard and get into the house without getting chased or bit by the snake? And I was on the verge of making a run for it. I was kind of building up my courage to do it. That's when my parents finally appeared, and they then took care of the situation. On balance, I don't think this was really an ideal introduction to snakes, and ever since then, I've really struggled with a near crippling fear of them. And even now, when I encounter them, well, let's just say those moments are not big on dignity. And if anyone would like any testimony on the effect, my husband has stories to tell you. But Loki's attitude about all this is that if he can have a rational view of snakes after his experiences in the myths, then I don't have any excuses worth worrying about. And when we revisit the myths, Loki's two main associations with snakes come in the form of his son Jormungandr, and then the serpent that was in the cave where Loki was bound for a period of time. You know, the venom dripping on him and causing him just excruciating pain. Jormungandr was removed from his parents' care, and he was thrown into the sea. Naturally, that was a source of pain for Loki. Despite how alarming Jormungandr's form and size had become to the other gods, he was still Loki's child. What harms him also harms Loki. I'm sure any parent could understand that principle and be able to say the same about their own children. If their child's hurting, they are hurting too. Now, when it comes to the serpent in the cave, however, that was there specifically for the purpose of torture and terror. I don't care how accustomed you are to snakes or how fascinated you might be by them. If you were trapped and tied to a stone and you could only look up and all you saw was this giant snake, mouth opened, fangs, venom dripping on you, burning your skin, that's going to take a psychological toll. However, despite these experiences, Loki doesn't have a crippling fear of snakes. Nor have I gotten the impression that he has a crippling fear of anything. It's just not his temperament to be permanently damaged by anything. The nature of chaos can be very healing in its own way. Now, it didn't take long for Loki, once he appeared into my life, to become aware of my personal weaknesses, and for a while he's been poking at the snake issue. It makes sense. Doesn't make me a better or a stronger person if I fall to pieces every time I encounter a snake. And just as a matter of practicality, I need to have a healthier view towards snakes and have a more sensible reaction to them because my husband and I will one day live on a farm. Snakes are going to be around. That's just a fact. And on the spiritual front, well, the whole point of spirituality is to make us better people as we seek to connect with deity better, understand our role in the universe. So wallowing in a phobia is a roadblock in spirituality. We may not always see how our fears get in the way of our spiritual development, but everything is connected. The expression, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul, this is not just a pretty expression. It is a straightforward statement about how life works, and that a principle applies to us as individuals, even when we don't want it to. So there have been little moments of progress. For example, the first animal spirit that ever chose to work with me is a snake. He actually arrived on the scene years before Loki did. And this spirit was understanding enough to realize that I was uncomfortable, and I was uncomfortable with it by its very nature. So it introduced itself very slowly. It has given me time to, I don't want to quite say feel at ease, but not terrified. And we have laid a foundation of trust over the years, even though I wouldn't say that there has been rapid progress in this. Just brick by brick, things have been happening. Then in meditations. One day I was meditating, I had a full-blown visualization going on, and in this visualization I was sitting in an open meadow under a tree, and there was a little skinny green snake that wove its way around my fingers. And when that happened, I didn't feel fear or discomfort or even surprise. I just kind of, held on to it for a moment, and then I released it back into the grass, and it went on to its merry way. So that was definitely different. I don't think that before that point I'd ever had such a calm reaction to a snake, not even in meditation. And then this brings us to dreams. I've had many a terrifying nightmare in which snakes were involved. But recently I had a dream that I was inside a plant nursery, greenhouse type of situation. I was with a group of people, and I looked down, and I noticed there was a wooden crate that was being used as a planter on the floor, and there was a few little plants in that. And there were also 2 garter snakes in that crate, just hanging out, looking around, kind of watching with a mild interest. And what was so bizarre about that is I didn't feel threatened, I didn't feel concerned, it was just, okay, there they are. Like the same way I would observe if, oh, there's a cat, oh, there's a squirrel. It was that kind of reaction. I even walked past this crate several times during the dream, and without staring at the snakes, ready to flee at the first sign of trouble, it was just, I accepted them as part of the landscape. So that was definitely different. Now, I don't think that the goal of any of this is to make me a lover of snakes. Merely, this is about healing a phobia and to enable me to have a more sensible assessment process of whether or not a snake is friend or foe, or poses a danger to me, such as if it is venomous. And this is also about teaching me to refrain from becoming hysterical. And this is part of what deity work consists of, dealing with uncomfortable things and getting past the discomfort and being able to manage when we're under stress. Spirituality in general, this is an exercise in self-improvement. That can't happen without this kind of confrontation of fear. Deities sometimes choose to bring these issues to the forefront. Loki certainly has. I don't think it's for nothing that all of a sudden I have these little manifestations of snakes and meditations and dreams. I'm not buying that. But this is a loving thing to do. And I'm harping on the point that the fact that it is a loving thing to do, not so much because my goal is to defend Loki or his methods of dealing with me, but because we are living in a world in which a very false idea has been presented, and it teaches that anything unpleasant is automatically hateful and unloving. And this idea has resulted in many people clinging to their faults, clinging to their fears, and condemning any calls for them to make changes for the better. And it's necessary to reject that kind of thinking. It makes us weak. It prevents our evolution. So whether it's a deity, a friend, a spouse, anyone who cares about our well-being, if they're saying, you need to deal with this issue. This isn't okay. It's hurting you. You need to do something. That is an expression of love, even if it's hard to hear in the moment, and even if it's harder to take action about. So you might be wondering whether or not Loki is holding my hand through this process, and the answer is yes and no. I can tell that he's careful not to push me too far and too fast. While I have no personal desire to work on my snake phobia, it is what I've been asked to do, and I'm cooperating. At certain points during meditations, and this is where I feel where it's always in meditation or dream work where I think I'm really addressing this fear. Sometimes Loki will make his presence felt in these situations, and that does reassure me. And other times he decides that it's what's going on in the meditation or in the dream, that's enough for now, and then the meditation or the dream goes off and into an entirely different tangent and direction. Now, when it comes to the periodic appearances of snakes in my dreams, which seem to be getting more frequent, I've gotten the feeling that Loki is more observing rather than participating in this. I do feel like the dreams are serving as tests, progress reports, seeing how I'll react and if I'm making any kind of improvements in this area. Now, will all of this result in greater calm the next time I encounter a snake in the waking world? That remains to be seen. It is spring, it's getting warm, the snakes are waking up, so it is only a matter of time before we cross paths. Um, I have not chosen to deal with this, but I am willing to see this task through. And hopefully, if I make enough progress, Loki will let me cross this particular task off that rather lengthy to-do list. So we will see. But just wanted to share that in case you are thinking of working with Loki or you are working with him and he's also pushing you to deal with some of these things. I hope it's reassuring for you. And if you've never really worked with deity before and you wanted to have some sense of what it was like, well, this is part of the program. This is not how it's like every single time the deity is actively working with you. Things can be different. There's different moods. There's different periods of your life. They're not always, harping on your fears or harping on areas in which you need to improve your character in some way. But it is part of what does go on. So just knowing that, you can be more prepared. So if you do end up working more one-on-one with deity, it won't come as so much of a shock. So I think that's it for this week. No idea what we'll be talking about where Loki's concerned next week, but I'm sure something will occur. So I hope you'll come back for that. In the meantime, if you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments section below, or come visit us at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There is a link to join in the description. And if you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's very, very helpful, and I will see you in the next one.